Well, it's my very big honor and pleasure to present the very first speaker here today. He's a very close friend of mine since many years. I was allowed to visit him in Russia several times. We traveled to Japan. We made amazing experiments in Baikal, in Siberia. And, well, to tell what he did, I would need all his time. He published more than 200 papers, wrote 15 books, is a worldwide well-known scientist, is our keynote speaker today. So please, and he's the inventor and the developer of the GDV technology, which is used today by more than 2,000 people. So please give a warm hand to Dr. Korotkov. Thank you very much.
Okay, good morning everybody. Very nice to see this wonderful place and to see all of you here. And first of all, I want to thank organizers of this beautiful conference for inviting me and for giving me an honor to start this presentation, to start this conference. So I would like to tell about light and life. You know that in 1904, Nobel Prize was awarded to the Danish physiologist and medical doctor, for developing light therapy. And he had thousands of patients who were cured by light. It was a big clinic in France, but unfortunately later on it was totally forgotten. And only in 1970s, again, we had people who started this new science and treatment of light. And now we have this description of how different colors can influence people: green, yellow, red, blue. But now I want to give you some details. Of course, I don't want to be boring, but to give you some details of biophysical mechanisms of light. For you to understand, if you use light of different colors, different principles, what does it mean? How it influences biophysical principles? And we know that light has two features. It is particle and it is wave. It was long discussion between two geniuses of 18th century, but both of them was developing these two lines. But for us, what's important? If we look to spectrum of light, we know that wavelength increases, but energy decreases. So the highest energy has ultraviolet light. The lowest energy has infrared light. And we know that all our life is based on life. If we go from biophysical point of view, it is based on the principle of so-named Krebs cycle. It means that we accept light to our Earth. And we have special devices that transform light and air into mass. What does it mean? What those devices are? Do you know? Direct transformation from energy to mass. Einstein principle. This is, you see? All plants, all grass, all trees, this is special system to transform energy and light into matter. And then animals eat this, we eat animals, and we transform this light into our energy. And we have special mechanism in every our cell. We have so-named mitochondria that is specially designed to use electrons that we get from food and transform it into ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and then to get energy from ADP, adenosine diphosphate. So, if you look to this scheme with scientific eye, you get understanding. In principle, we don't need food. We need light, we need air and water. So, it is possible to live without food. And we know there are people who live without food, so named sun eaters. But to me, it is very boring. I like good food, I like good wine, and it's tremendous pleasure to go at night with friends and have good dinner. So let them be sign eaters, but I prefer to be food eater. And we understand what happens with light when it comes to our skin. You see, when light comes to our skin, there are some light that comes inside the skin and is scattering, reflection, absorption inside the skin. Some lights come out of the skin. And of course, it depends on wavelengths. So the highest energy has ultraviolet. But ultraviolet and violet light is very strongly absorbed by our skin. So it doesn't come deep. It comes only to the outer part of the skin. Then the highest penetration has red light. But then if you go to infrared, then again penetration decreases, because I will explain you why. So that is, we need to know this. We need to explain to understand this. If we use different colors, different lights, we have different level of penetration, first of all. And of course, we can describe this from scientific point of view, but I don't want to give you deep into scientific topics. But first, it's very important to understand. In science, we have so-named absorption curves. It means this is wavelengths in nanometers, and those are different part of our skin. Melanin, hemoglobin, those are main absorbers, and water. And you see, we have so-named window of penetration. So this window, it's, if we look to this scale, visible, it's from 400 to 800, somewhere here. So near infrared and red light has the maximum penetration in our skin. And I will show you what's the effect of this penetration. But at the same time, we have very strong effects in visible range because of melatonin and hemoglobin. Because melanin is part of epidermis and hair, so we absorb light not only by our skin, by our hair. Of course, people who have it. I don't. But I have skin open. It's another advantage. Then a very important hemoglobin, because this is a key element of our cells. And it has many different absorption peaks. So hemoglobin is maybe one of the key elements. It has absorption peak in near ultraviolet and in violet, green, and yellow. And collagen. And of course, collagen is main form of dermis. And again, collagen as well has. And we see different parts, different photoacceptors, so named, and different lights. So we see, very important, if you look to this graph, that all different colors has their absorption elements. So if we use different colors, we influence different parts of our skin and different parts of our body. And of course, as I've told, hemoglobin is maybe the main molecule. And absorption of light is very closely connected to absorption of oxygen. That is why it's two topics interconnected, light and air. And Rasmus told me yesterday that he is developing approach when he is using special type of exercise, breathing exercise, with light. And this would be the most, important. Of course, in the classical papers, you find mostly description of energy effects of light. And we understand, yes, it is a lot of mechanism created with excited electrons mostly, and creation of free radicals. So it looks like this. So normal molecules become excited. And excited molecules enhance metabolic processes. And that's why ultraviolet and blue light has a strong energetic effect and antimicrobial agent. So that's why you know that in all hospitals they use ultraviolet to clean the air. And it's very, very useful, of course. But at the same time, we remember that penetration depth is very little. It's only outer part of skin. And, okay, yes. And of course, sunlight that has very strong ultraviolet part. It is very beautiful, and we like always being at the beach with beautiful ladies. And that's very important in modern society, in modern life. But we need to understand, this is the main source of life. At the same time, it's the main enemy of the skin. So you should remember, ultraviolet is the main destroyer of skin tissues. So if you expose yourself to light, to ultraviolet light a lot, then just expect being like this. No other way. I work a lot in cosmetology, and we know this effect. So it is absolutely obligatory for modern people to use different sun blocks, sun protection creams, and the best to use it with number 10 when you go to a beach. Then you have nice color on your skin, but you wouldn't have this so many wrinkles. Because to get rid of wrinkles, it's quite expensive now, you know. It's possible, but expensive. So that's why thermal effects of light, it is important part of all the story. And in surgery, for example, we use mostly thermal effects of light. But I would say for us it's not so interesting. Because, of course, we understand that if you apply very intense laser light, you will have these thermal effects. And this is the principle of a lot of therapy in surgery and in medicine. But if you apply scattered light, or if you apply laser light, very weak intensity, then of course you wouldn't have thermal effects. And this is the most beneficial effects for health. So I wouldn't come deep to thermal effects, but let's discuss informational role of light. This gentleman, his name was Alexander Gurevich. He was professor of biophysics and biology in Russia, and he was the first to discover so-named metagenic radiation. He demonstrated that biological tissues can influence each other by light quanta. This effect was, he did a lot of study on this topic, but this effect was not confirmed by that time by American scientists, so it was not well accepted in the West. But he had many published papers. He was awarded by highest Stalin Award in Soviet Union, and he demonstrated a lot of effects of these metagenic rays. And in particular, he shown that they have very significant effect for health. So it was shown that for cancer patients, their blood has no metagenic radiation. So he was the first to demonstrate the difference between cancer blood and normal blood, healthy blood, on radiation. And later on, this was found. The spectrum of this metagenic radiation is ultraviolet, and it's very weak radiations. It's maybe 1,000 up to 1,000 photons per second per square centimeter. So it is impossible to detect them just visual. It's impossible to detect by simple means, only by very sensitive photocounters. And in the 1970s, it was Fritz Albert Pope, very outstanding German scientist, physicist, biologist, who developed this as line, Biophotonics. And you know, this line became very well known, popular, and they've been using very sensitive single photon counters. And we now understand much more deep the principle of this influence. And the principle is based on so-named different levels of our system behavior, our functioning, system functioning. So, unlike classic medicine, classic biophysics, we first of all define first quantum level of our system functioning. It was described by St. Georgi twice Nobel winner in 1970s. It was described by Linus Pauling again, but it was not accepted still, and it is not truly accepted yet by modern medicine. But all doctors, all people know that our nervous system operates on electrons. No question, yes? We all know. But what does mean electron? Electron, it's a quantum particle. Electron, it's a particle, and at the same time, it's a wave. So that's why we transform waves along our nervous system. At the same time, brain is operated by photons. Now it is shown that it's not only electrons that operate in cells of our brain, but those are photons. So we have photons in all chemical reactions of our system, of our biochemistry. And photons, it's transmitter of information. Not the energy, but information. So this quantum level of our body functioning is the first and basic level. That's why when we use analysis or diagnostic based on quantum principles, it gives us so deep information, and I will tell about this later. Next level, it's the level of biofields. Again, now we have this accepted in biophysics, the notion of biofield as the common denominator of all our processes in our body. We interact with each other with our biofield. We accept environment with our biofield, and our heart, not the brain, but our heart is the main acceptor of biofield. That's why we tell that our heart is the source of love, and Rasmus will tell you much more about this later in his presentation. Next level, of course, this is a level of chemical level. It's a level of chemical processes, and it's very important level, no doubts, because you know that all modern medicine based on chemical level. So no doubts in power of chemical level and in power of modern medicine. I should tell that I have many dear friends who are medical doctors. I have tremendous respect to medical doctors. My wife, she's a medical doctor. My daughter, she's a medical doctor. But we need to be clever enough to understand where do we need pills and where do we need light or some other subtle energies. And of course, the highest level is the level of symptoms, level of response of organs and systems. So it's the last point in very long process. So if people have some problem, it comes very deep from quantum level. And I should tell you that, for example, chronic fatigue, that we know about now more and more, it is based on quantum level of functioning. That's why we can detect this process on quantum level with our biowell instruments. For example, electromagnetic sensitivity, again, in most cases, is based on quantum level of functioning. And if we can get information from this quantum level, of course, we can have a lot of topics on this topic. So, weak glow or light absorption accompanies all chemical reactions involving free radicals. On glow of cells and tissues is mainly caused by reactions of lipid peroxidation and reaction accompanying the interaction of nitrogen oxide and superoxide radical. So this is scientific explanation, and of course I can go much more deep into scientific topics, but for us we need to remember one topic. We emit light. We are light beings. We live on light, water, and air. That's what we need for our life, nothing else. That is why all over the centuries, it was people who was able to see light around people. And if you look to ancient icons for all generations, you will see this light around saint people. And it's very well known in Orthodox, Catholic icons, you always have it. And one more topic. Next, let's go One more interesting topic. One of the latest discovery was done by Professor Gerald Pollack from Washington, from United States. He's a great scientist, wonderful scientist, dear friend of us. And he has this book, Fourth Phase of Water, because he found very important topic. He found that near some surfaces, water has very special properties. And this zone, so named ordered zone, it has many physical properties. In particular, it separates charge, and it creates very special type of water, different from bulk water. And it exists practically all around surface. And what does it mean around surface? We contain several thousand meters or several kilometers of different vessels. Different arteries, capillaries, and all those capillaries, those are surface. So Pollack demonstrated that in all those capillaries, water, and what does it mean water? Blood, lymph, it's water, yes, has very special properties. And it is strongly influenced by light. So he demonstrated that the movement of water by pores and blood by capillaries is explained by an effect of these exclusion zones. Because this is a simple question. Okay, you see this big, big tree. How it's possible for water to come up there? How? From modern physics, it's impossible. What's the difference between live tree and dead tree? You know that you go to California, you see these huge, huge pines. How water can come there? Sometimes you see dead tree, but some leaves just at the top. Nonsense. Why water should come up there without on practically dead tree? So, and for modern physics, it's totally enigma. Only by theory of Gerald Pollack it may be explained due to these exclusion zones, due to these special capillary effects, because it creates a movement of liquid by itself, by electrical force, by quantum principle, but not by classical physics. And what's interesting, that this exclusion zone is strongly influenced by light. So if we apply light, this exclusion zone increases. And it was absolutely clear experiments. So in control light exclusion zone of this size, and with light of this zone. And very important that this is infrared light. So exclusion zone is influenced by infrared light. And what we remember? We remember that infrared light has very deep penetration into tissue. So it comes deep to our capillaries. So if we want some effects, we need to use this infrared light or red light because it has very potential power. So we have energy action and information action on visual, mostly ultraviolet and visual, and we have activation of blood microcirculation by infrared. So those are three main effects of light to our biological tissues. And of course, now we need to discuss about light and health, how it is related. And the first, I need to, again, to mention information role of light in melatonin production. You know, melatonin, it's one of the hormones that influence our circadian rhythm. We sleep at night if we have good production of melatonin. That's why for many people we recommend to use liquid melatonin, 10 drops under the tongue, and it's very good per night. And in modern society, we have different type of life. In old times, people was coming to bed when it was dark, and they woke up when it was light. Yesterday I came to sleep by 11 when it was dark, and I woke up by 6, it was first light. And I came out to get first light, so it was wonderful experience. And now people sit with their computers, with their mobile phones, TV, till 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. Then they go to sleep. Then they sleep with light. And it was shown by very precise study in different countries. It's just one paper. I can show you many papers on this topic. That if you sleep with external light, you can't sleep deep. So to be healthy, you need to sleep 8-9 hours in total darkness. And it prolongs life. We are involved in anti-aging society movement, and it was demonstrated one of the way to prolong your life is to sleep long. So, and for women, need more time for sleep than for men. The older we are, we have less sleep, but still we need deep sleep without light. And of course, for children, they need much more sleep. That's why it's so big problem with school children. And morning sunlight stabilizes circadian rhythms. So I'm traveling worldwide every month practically, from one part of the world to another part of the world, but I never ever had jet lag, because in the morning I wake up, first thing I go and get light. When I have sunlight, not just bulb, sunlight in my eyes, it generates circadian rhythm. It stabilizes circadian rhythm. And in 1-2 days, I have this totally stabilized. So I fly, for example, from Europe to the United States. Same night when I arrive, I have meetings, discussions. Next morning, I have presentation at the conference or workshop for 10 hours. So it has tremendous influence to physiology, and I can describe you all details of this. But we need to understand what does mean diffuse light and laser light, because at the exhibition we see different type of devices. We have laser devices, we have LED devices, and what's the difference? First of all, now of course we understand clear difference. Laser light, it's monochromic, it has same colors, like those beautiful ladies. It has coherence, so all the waves are very similar. Against diffuse light, that all the waves, and collimation, so all the waves come in one direction. So it's clear, understandable. So we can compare diffuse light, it's just group of people coming somewhere. Some people go this way, some go that way. People have different clothing, so it's diffuse light. And laser light, it's war regiment. All same colors, all go in same directions, all very precise. So that's the difference, very clear difference. Just remember this picture and you have no, will never have no doubts between those two type of lights. And of course, we have a lot of clinical effects of lights, a lot. Now there are thousands and thousands papers published on the effect of light. And now it demonstrates there are, in principle, there are no difference between laser light and LED light. As we seen before, the main principle, first of all, in wavelengths, intensity, of course, and the type of using it. And the main effects of light in health, it is anti-inflammation effect, anti-accident effect, pain relief, and immunomodulation. So you see, it means that light has key features for health. And we have many areas of application of light in medicine. Now it's fantastic, you know, you go to dentist, without light they don't do anything. You need to get rid of your veins on your legs, you use laser light. You go to surgery, you use laser light. So it's a lot of applications in medicine, in many, many areas. I was surprised to find this book, Photomodulation in the Brain, the whole big book describing effect of light on brain tissues, even in Alzheimer and other brain problems, diseases. Of course, we understand it's not the cure, but it's one of the way how it is possible, for example, another application to reduce the effect of cancer treatment. If you use some classical cancer treatment in parallel with light, then of course it's much easier recovery. So I wouldn't come deep into this description, but what I need to mention, those are intravenous light effect treatment. This treatment was developed in Russia in 1950s when they introduced photocatheter in the vein and apply light. And this has tremendous effect, tremendous. Now we have this type of devices in Russia, and they produce this type of devices in Russia. Now they produce this in South Korea. In Russia you can buy it for a couple of $1,000s. In South Korea it is $70,000. Same device, but it's your choice. But it is tremendously effective for treatment. And we have, in many clinics, we have fantastic effects. Because it's all the effects that I've described before, it's applicable here, but it is direct, without skin. You don't need to penetrate the skin. And as we remember, light is a wave. So by this method, we send waves of light through the vein. And of course, it's absolutely clear. And now let's go to next topic, light diagnostics. Because this is my topic that I need to more concentrate. And we have many types now of light diagnostic. In principle, again, in Russia it was developed as a fluorescent glow of blood and tissues. So they send direct light to tissue and describe the parameters of fluorescent glow. And it is in ultraviolet range. You remember that visible start from 400. And then in parallel, they remove arteriosclerotic plaques in blood vessels and simultaneously diagnostic the state of vessel. So it's very specific device. It has very complex, I would say, equipment, but it is now developing. And we are developing so-named electrophotonic imaging, or GDV, gas discharge visualization. And I want to tell you a couple of words about this. This line has very long development. More than 200 years ago, in 1777, a German scientist, George Lichtenberg, who was one of the great scientists by that time. He was philosopher, scientist, poet, as was typical by that time. He was discovering light coming from different subjects in electrical field. In 19th century, it was many people, including Tesla and people in different countries, who were studying this. In 20th century, it became known due to Russian family Kirlian, who developed this approach, and they developed this as Kirlian photography. And it was very well known, Kirlian photography. It was hundreds of papers. And by 1970s, I was attracted by our Soviet Academy of Science to study what does it mean, this Kirlian effect. So being a quantum physicist, I spent several years in studying this, done PhD on this, and it was very interesting, but it was not scientific. Why? Because in science we have several key topics. First of all, any effect should be reproducible. So if it's discovered in one laboratory, it should be repeatable in other laboratories. Same as it should be repeatable. If we're measuring our temperature today, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, if we're healthy, it's principally the same temperature with little variation. And one topic, in science, we don't deal without numbers. Without numbers, there are no science. It's philosophy, it's psychology, but no science. But even in psychology, they go to numbers. So that's why Kirlian effect was interesting, but was not scientific. And that's why in 1995, our team was able to create first digital camera, GDV camera, based on modern principles. So it's modern electronics, optics, image processing, and this was transition from Kirlian photography to computer processing. So we have this live image, so it's dynamic process. And we can see this in dynamics in life. It's in our software. And what's important, it is quantum process. We study photons emitted by our tissues, emitted by our body, by our fingers, and stimulated by electromagnetic field. So, and we remember that quantum level is the basic level of our existence. So if we study nature on quantum level, that's why we can get a lot of information. And we use image processing, where we get this black and white image because it's mostly ultraviolet. Then we process this with special programs based on artificial intelligence, and we get this type of images, and we can study water. For example, this is normal water, distillate water, this is active water, and this is water after pyramid, like triangle. So we can study leaves, water, whatever. I have, as I mentioned, many patents in different countries, 15 patents, many books in different languages. And at my workshop on Saturday, I will bring some books. And main areas of application, electrophotonic imaging. It is, first of all, medicine. It is our main area, and we have the most research in this area. Then it is consciousness study. This is my favorite area. I like it. And this is, to my mind, it's the science of 21st century, real 21st century. Then sport. I am deputy director of the National Institute of Sport in Russia, and our instrument is accepted as one of the key instruments in sport. Then water and material testing, psychology, and geopathic zones or environmental study. So we see so many areas, and in all those areas we have different applications. In 2014, we developed a next project. Now any caveman can operate on computer. My wife, she's a medical doctor. It took her several years, but now she's very skilled with computer. And I would not mention about children. They can do it from 2 years old. And we give very simple instrument, very simple in use, that can operate anybody. Then you just take images and send them to server. And we're using the most powerful server in our Western world, Amazon server. And practically immediately we have information coming back to the user. And it changed the situation. This approach, it's a modern approach based on modern technology. And of course, as we have very complicated software, even impossible to put this software in a little computer. But on server, we are unlimited. Now we have more than 1 million readings on our server. We have huge databases. We keep, of course, all these rules of privacy, of everything, of this. So we are certified with all possible certification, including FDA. So that's our device. We produce this in Hong Kong now. So we have this Hong Kong as our hub for producing everything, because it's China, you understand. Then we have our centers in Estonia, in Spain, Huesca, and in Boulder, Colorado. And we operate from all the centers. Plus, we have our friends, our distributors, our customers worldwide. Now we have more than 3,000 instruments worldwide. And we have local distributors in every country. We operate on 15 languages, or 16 maybe. And that's why it's affordable practically everywhere. And in medicine. As I mentioned, in medicine, we have many hundred papers published. We have review of those papers. And we are based on principle of traditional Chinese medicine, principle of meridiums, the principle of Ayurvedic medicine, the principle of chakras, and Western medicine, systems and organs. So we make a bridge between Oriental wisdom and modern scientific approach. And of course, we have in our programs analysis of traditional Chinese medicine, of these acupuncture channels. We have analysis of different organs and systems, and it's based on fingers. So we take all information from our hands and our fingers. Why? I can give a separate lecture about this. I can explain all biophysics of this, but we need to understand our hands, those are most sensitive area of our body. And we accept all information from all organs and systems to our hands. So first, this principle was developed by Dr. Peter Mandel in Germany, who was one of the first developing light therapy. So he was a wonderful person. We met with him several times, and he has his own approach, his own machines, so he's a wonderful, really great person. And he has developed first this approach to analyzing of Kirlian photography, and he was one of the first to developing light therapy, and he published books on this topic. So we take 10 image of 10 fingers, and we process this image, creating this image of energy field around the body. And if you look to those images, we understand this image is very narrow but solid. This image has a lot of holes. This image has holes but very active. So all these features have specific relation to health. And not only to health, but to psychology. And in our programs, of course, we use a lot of parameters, more than 30 parameters. We have a lot of programs. So we know this correlation between the image and health. And experienced practitioners, experienced doctors can give very detailed analysis, not just of what is going on with you, not the symptoms, but your weak zones. What you need to pay attention to long before symptoms appear. And we have clinical studies in many national and international universities in different countries. And what's good in this, that in all studies that was done, of course, independent from us, it was demonstrated only positive effects of this analysis. Never, ever we had negative response. And we are based now on so-named 4 pillars of health. This is endocrine system, digestive tract, our sympathetic, parasympathetic balance, and level of stress. So when we make analysis, we are based on those 4 principles, and from our programs, it is easy to get information about those principles. And we are measuring level of stress directly, so from 0 to 10, so just from one measurement we can tell this. We are measuring the level of energy, balance of the body, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and of course we have a lot of correlations with classical medicine. So in this particular study, it was studied more than 500 patients in clinical environment in big hospital, where it was possible to use all possible means of diagnostics. And in parallel, they've been using GDV. And they demonstrated that correlation is about from 80 to 95%. So that's why we claim that when you make analysis, the prediction power would be about 80%, at least. And of course, it's very clear understanding. When we have strong, healthy field, it is strong, powerful, and this is really no holes, no breaks, no outbursts. And if you look to picture of chakras, they are big and well distributed. If we look to health problems, we can detect different health problems by different peaks. And in particular, you see those peaks, they are related to spine. And it is very common feature for modern people to have some spine deficiency, spine problems, very common. And of course, chakras are not so precise. And by analyzing this information, chakra information, we can get a lot of information about psychological features, a lot. So when we describe people, we can give very detailed description of their health issues and their psychological state at the moment. Stress, of course, that's another topic, very important topic. And with stress, we have, of course, different little chakras, very scattered field. You see very scattered chakras, and sometimes even like this. And practically you see practically no chakras. Because in this condition, people practically have no response with environment. And chakras, this is the way how we communicate with the environment. It's Ayurvedic principle of describing this. And of course, as I've told, we can study chronic fatigue. It has very special features, chronic fatigue. And we have program that allows to separate between activity of sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. And in the latest study, it was found very high correlation with HRV, heart rate variability. So that's why we, in all our research, we try to use in parallel BioWell, GDV, and HRV. So in two technologies in parallel. The power of this approach is to see effects. We are measuring person before, then we applied some light therapy. For example, this is light therapy, and we see effect. And it takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Or, for example, this bright light device. In our northern countries like Finland, Norway, Russia, north of Russia, we have very dark nights in wintertime, and it creates so-named winter depression. And in Philips' company, I was involved in this research, we have developed so-named bright light devices. So this device had spectrum of natural light. And 10 minutes with this bright light device, and you see effect. So it's absolutely clear. At the same time, we can study effect, of course, of mobile phone, and it's always negative, no doubts. We have special approach how to demonstrate this effect of, because it's different for different people, it's individual, but still we have it. We have a test of different medications, and again, it's very simple approach, and we see effect response of people to medication without opening the bottle. So you just to keep this some medication in hand, you apply it to your heart, and you see response. So that's very interesting technology. So there are a lot of programs, a lot of applications. One of interesting application, we can detect potential miscarriage for pregnant women during pregnancy, and it was again developed as scientific line for several thousand people. We have big research in cancer from practically for 10 years now, more than 10 years now, in different countries as well. And we have clear difference, statistical difference between healthy, for example, women with breast cancer and women with breast cancer. And we have clear statistical difference. We can study blood as well, healthy blood, cancer blood, and see difference. Our latest papers published related to colon neoplasia. Neoplasia, it means polyps and cancer. And we can detect between healthy people, people who have polyps in colon, and cancer. And you understand that advantage of this approach, that you can easily check this potential. So if we give the probability of negative situation, we don't we use word cancer, we give the probability of negative condition is 80%. Please go to colonoscopy. It is very unpleasant colonoscopy. You know that it needs preparation, anesthesia, very unpleasant procedure, but it gives you exact details of what's going on. So if for our readings in 5 minutes we can get probability of negative outcome, then people can check it, and then we just now we saved many people by this analysis. It's based on very complex mathematical analysis based on neural networks, so named it's very specific mathematics, but in principle it's based on analysis of statistics. So this is an example of statistic of 2,100 cases of healthy people. As mentioned, now we have more than 1 million in our database. And cancer, as any disease, it always comes outside of key distribution. So by this distribution, we can define the area of health, and we can define the statistically what's the outcome of health. And same approach we are using for detecting arterial hypertension on early stage. Again, it's very precise. So it is many, many applications that we are developing, and they are all, we try to have all published in peer-reviewed journals, so you can find it in Medline. But we use not only analysis, but we are using treatment as well. Our treatment based on the principle that we have energy field, but in reality, we are measuring frequency. So we transform this frequency into music. Yes. So we generate in program special music, individual for every person. Then we apply this music to special device, and it's possible to record this to this device. But this device generates gigahertz frequency. This frequency penetrates to cell. So it is special trick, and we have thousands of papers published in Russia, in international journals as well, on the effect of gigahertz frequency on health. Then we give people earphones with special sensor, and it has tremendous effects, tremendous. So we have, I started later, so I know my time, keep my time. We have hundreds of devices worldwide, we produce those devices, and the effects are fantastic. So that's really transformation. So it's effect of biocore session. As I mentioned, we have special technology to study water, and I have book. At my workshop, I will show this book, The Emergent Science of Water, that we describe new discoveries in water. I work in sport a lot, and we use our technology for all Olympic teams and Paralympic teams of Russia, with great effect. I was awarded by our president for this. We have a lot of development in conscious study. We are based on the principle of alternate state of consciousness, and I was able to study top-level healers in the world. And we see effect of those people to people with measurement before, after, and it was different people, and we see a level of stress for hundreds of people. We have special sensor, so named Sputnik sensor. This sensor allows us to see effect of environment and effect of our consciousness to the environment. So you see it was recording for 8 hours non-stop at one of the workshop of Eric Pearl, who are developing reconnective healing approach. So it was beginning of workshop for several hours, different presentation, and then Eric Pearl came. He is great healer. He has tremendous effect on people, and you see it was wonderful effect, wonderful, great effect of his presentation. Same we can study with water. So for example, this initial water, and this is water under the influence of strong healer. So we see. But this effect may be positive and negative. So as my dear friend Masaru Emoto was always told, with your positive thoughts, you can structure water in positive way. With your negative thoughts, you can make it other way around. So we had many experiments, for example, with Lynn McTaggart. It was very interesting experiments when group of people collected all over the world was trying to send their intention to our laboratory, and always it was positive effect, always. And I have a big book on this energy of consciousness where I describe some of this data. Then we are studying geoactive zones, and I had expedition to different parts of the world, historical places, places with a lot of interest, and we have a lot of experiments, very interesting experiments. The latest was in Peru, and again, it's a separate topic of discussion. And by the end, I want to show you one topic. We are measuring love. So we have special approach in our technology how to measure love. It is possible to make just by record 2 fingers of people together, and then you see light coming from one finger to another finger. In our BioWell technology, we have so-named diagrams, energy diagrams, and we found that diagram of people being in love, they're absolutely similar. If you look here, you see peaks are absolutely similar. And we have now many people of this kind, because I have many good friends who live together. I have young people who are in love. around ourselves, and we are measuring those people, and always we see this type. Different type of energy, different type of diagrams, but they are very, very similar to each other. So it means that when people in love, they create one and the same energy system. They create one and the same field. And this field has no distance. It's not that we need to be together. I've done measurement of one man in 2016, and his wife I've been measuring in 2019, 3 years difference. But their diagrams was absolutely same, totally same. So it means that love, it's not just fantasy. It's not just crazy topics. It is the basis of life. If you want to be healthy, you need to have love. And we have another experiment, very direct experiment, when we've been recording people who was sending love to each other from the distance. And you see, it is energy coming from one heart to another heart. So heart, it's the seat of love. Heart, it's an organ of energy. And heart send this energy to the world. And if you have love, you send this love around yourself. It's like a wave that's coming around. And when you see people who are happy, who are in love, those people have really clear effect on other people. So we have conferences in St. Petersburg every year, in summer, in July. This will be July 4 and 5. You are very welcomed, because it's a time of white nights. And you know, St. Petersburg, it's one of the most beautiful cities in the world. And at night, you can walk around. It's like daylight, like here. Weather maybe like this. I'm sorry. But it's totally safe. We have one of the most safe cities in the world. And you are very welcome to come, because it's a lot of interesting presentations. So thank you for the attention. I don't know how do we have time for questions or don't? Yes? Okay. 5 minutes for questions. Okay, yes, you're welcome.
Woman and man, the two diagrams.
Wait for a minute, the microphone.
Thank you. So the question was the previous images. Was it woman on the left and man on the right? Because you didn't get the words.
You see,
You know,
yes. You see,
Muller is woman.
You see, it's woman and man.
A man, okay. And the question is this, it's not that thing. It is known and said that, I'm sorry to talk about a subject that might be devices, but it's about vaccines which are compelled now into our children. It is known because studies and clinical data show that there are people who react very badly to vaccines, even because of some substances that are in the vaccines, like aluminum. There are people who get ill because of that, because they found aluminum 10 years later, after the injection was made. Yet they cancel that information, and they want to oblige the whole world to get vaccinated against, I don't know how many diseases. Now in the States it's 72 compulsory vaccines. Now the question is, when a person falls ill because of this aluminum that is still in his or her body, even an adult or a person like me of my age, that substance cannot be excreted from that person's kidneys. Now, do you have a means with light, with these techniques that we were talking about, to have the person expel that aluminum.
Okay.
And one more thing. For instance, metal particles that shouldn't be in the vaccines, nanoparticles of inert materials. It's still metals, but they are alloys. It's not in a simple, how can I say?
I'm sorry, it will be one question for 5 minutes only.
Yeah, the same thing. Can these substances, which are inert and metal, can be expelled from the body thanks to your light?
Okay.
Thank
First
you.
of all, I can give you another lecture about vaccines. This is the whole lecture. Second, it's not only aluminium. It's a lot of heavy metals. First of all, mercury. Then it is a lot of heavy metals that we get from air in big cities. So it's a big problems. And first of all, we need to study, and we can study heavy metals by hair. Even I have hair on some part of my body. You can believe me. And then we can detect which heavy metals you have, and then we need to have very complex therapy. We have this therapy in Russia. It's a complex therapy. It's not just 1 minute. Please understand one topic. I am deeply involved in health issues, in treatment, in therapies. I consult many health centers. No one treatment would help you with real problems. Always you need to use complex treatment, because body is very complex system. Wait, it's my presentation, not yours. One topic that may be tremendously positive for one person would give no effect or negative effect for another person. So it's absolutely clear. So that is why we use complex treatment. We use leeches, you know leeches, animals. We use different herbs. We use obligatory cleansing, detoxification. We use light in parallel. And then in parallel, after a couple of months, you can get rid of toxins. No, wait. I give no difference. If we talk about therapy, we talk about therapy. If you want to talk about different injections, it's a different story. It's another lecture. No, wait. Again. It's very primitive approach. I give much more complex scientific approach and medical approach. Yes.
Another last question? Yes?
Can you tell us about your study for the alternative state of consciousness, comparing to light or what?
Okay. So this is a really big point, because now we have this science of consciousness, and now in many big centers they use complicated instruments to study brain in active life. And the main key topics as follows: whether consciousness is product of brain, like for example all liquids and tissues of our body, or consciousness is something more than brain. And all scientists, they are divided to two parts. One part believe that consciousness is a part of brain activity. Other part believes that it's much more than that. That both heart, brain, soul, and universe, it's a part of our consciousness. So that's why we try to prove it with our scientific instruments. And for us, we have several lines of study. First, it is influence of consciousness to different sensors remotely, and we study those effects. I can show you a lot of data. Second, it is study of telepathy, so communication between people. Next, the influence of light, in particular, to our consciousness and to our system. And next, the influence of the animals and plants, in interaction with animals and plants. So those are different lines, and we have ongoing experiments on this. You can find some information in my books that will be available on Saturday, and of course see a lot of papers published on the internet as well. Okay?
Well, thank you, Doctor. Thank you very much. We have a break, 10 minutes, and we come back in 10 minutes.